Hey everyone, welcome back to What Next? And this week we're diving into a 1989 classic, The Wizard. Now, if you guys haven't seen this one, please again do yourself a favor and go ahead and watch this one. Then come right back here that we can go ahead and go over these questions. See if you have anything else that maybe I didn't get to or something that maybe I just didn't think of. So let's jump into it for those of you who have seen it. Now, I went ahead and kind of recently rewatched this one. It had been a few years since I'd actually decided to watch this one or been watching this one. So when thinking of movies to do, this popped right in my head. Classic movie when I was a kid. Centered around Nintendo. It was the first showing of Super Mario Bros. 3, so it was like eye-popping at the time. If you guys remember playing the original NES system, you probably saw this movie. So let's jump into it. So first thing I was thinking of is the ending. You got Jimmy, Corey, and Haley in the back of Corey's dad's truck, and they're driving off, kind of into the sunset, which is a fitting ending. But thinking about it now, to me, I'm like, where are these kids going with the dad? Like, especially with Haley. Haley was kind of a lone wolf. You know, they picked her up along the way, found out she pretty much lives by herself for the most part. I think they kind of go with the fact her dad's a truck driver, so he's gone a lot. So as they all drive off to the sunset, I'm thinking, what are they doing with Haley? Like, are they taking her with her back to California? Are they taking her back home? Are they, because she lives in Reno, like, are they taking her back to Reno? Like, what's going to happen with Haley now that all this is done? Because you start thinking past this, what's next for Haley? She's gone through this process with Jimmy and Corey. Now, yeah, it's done. So it's like they drop her back off at home. Again, this is late 80s. You know, they keep in contact via the phone. You guys remember we had home phones. You could write a letter, become pen pals. Like, what kind of happens with Haley past then? Because you could see her home life wasn't so great. She was pretty much like a latchkey kid. Dad wasn't around much because he's a truck driver, so he's gone on long shifts. She was able to get a hold of some friends, I'm guessing because of her dad. You have the truck driver Spanky, who came in and helped her out a lot. Which is odd. You see this friend helping her more than the dad. But I don't know. We can think more about that. But yeah, I was just thinking about, it's weird, like, what happens with Haley, because she kind of just has to go back to whatever her norm is now that Jimmy's kind of like, you know, this Nintendo wizard. Corey's, you know, super proud of him. You know, kind of broke him out of his shell a little bit. And clearly they're living in completely different states. So it's just what becomes a Haley past this. So, you know, who knows? They're all, you know, preteens. She just probably goes back to school, tells everybody, hey, I had a great summer. This is what I did. And then it's probably just a memory for her, you know, as she grows up. Now, Jimmy and Corey, again, they're stepbrothers. So I'm kind of curious how their dynamic goes. So we'll start with Corey. So Corey is the older brother, gets Jimmy out of there. So past this, I'm curious what happens with Corey. Does he try to form like that stronger bond with Jimmy? Does he convince his dad Sam and his brother Nick, like, hey, we got to bring Jimmy into the family a little more? So maybe they are able to kind of get more of Jimmy. Maybe he's able to get more visitation with Jimmy. It seems like that relationship when we see them at the beginning is so-so. They don't really see each other a lot because Jimmy's in that home, doesn't really talk to anybody, just kind of keeps to himself. Very traumatized given the fact what happened with his twin sister. So now that everything's kind of changed and Jimmy is who he is now, what does Corey do? Like, because Corey's a smart kid. Maybe he decides to start managing Jimmy's career. Maybe they want to make him like this NES champion. He wants to travel, maybe play some games, get in some bigger tournaments, try to get him a little more exposure to what's going on with that. Yeah, I'm just curious because now that, like, you know, Corey, Nick, who's the older brother, that's Christian Slater. You have Sam, the dad. You still have Corey's mom and his stepdad. So now that Jimmy's won this huge tournament, like this NES championships, where do they all go with him from there? Like, do they see, all right, this is a good outlet for him and kind of keep him in that motion of, all right, well, let's put him in front of some video games and this could be his outlet to the world. So, and just being curious to see how Corey went ahead and kind of manifested that, given the fact that he knows now Jimmy is, this is a legit Nintendo player. Super Nintendo wasn't out just yet. So, yeah, that's kind of what I had for Corey. They did have some trouble with, secondary characters. You had Mr. Bateman, who was the guy who was chasing them. He's another one, kind of the last thing we see of him, he gets beaten up by the truckers. You don't really see him getting beaten up, but you hear it. So as far as with him, I think a quick little scene of maybe him just maybe starting a new profession. He decides that after all this, chasing down kids and hunting them for a living to turn them into their parents just isn't what he should be doing with his life. So hopefully he kind of learned from this experience and just figured, you know what, I'm going to go do something else with my days, because this, chasing kids down and bringing them in for money just is not good. He was kind of like a kid bounty hunter in a sense, is what they were doing with him. Now Jimmy, I'm super curious, because given the fact that he's a traumatized little kid, and when we first see him, he's kind of got out of his shell a little bit. What he can latch onto is he's really good at Nintendo games. So I'm curious if they keep him on that path as to seeing as maybe this is a way to help him. He finally gets to California. He leaves a lunchbox there, kind of a memory of his, twin sister that passed. So does he still use Nintendo as an outlet? And does he keep going? Does he become this, kid that's a force to be reckoned with? Does he show up at all these, NES tournaments and start winning, make a name for himself? I'm curious as to how he would have done, because especially not too long after that Super Nintendo came out. So who knows? The Nintendo world is huge and always has been huge. So it would have been curious to see if they'd had him grow into that, he's a super gamer, or if he just kind of maybe snapped out of everything and he just becomes like this, like your normal average kid. He's just running around having fun, but always has those memories of that time he had where he won the Nintendo Championship. And then let's just a little bit of honorable mention on this one. Lucas Barton. So Lucas Barton was kind of the kid villain of this game. He shows up. He has 96 Nintendo games. He has his little case. He had the Power Glove. He's the one that basically scared Jimmy into thinking that he wasn't any good at playing Nintendo. His I love the Power Glove. It's so bad. And when that showed up on the movie too, I was like, oh my God, a Power Glove. I had to have one of those. I did get to use one once. Wasn't a fan of it, but it was still pretty cool to see in the movies when it first came out. So him, I think it'd have been cool to see what happens with him should there have ever been a sequel. I think you have him as that, that same thing, bully guy. He knows he got beat by Jimmy. That was his tournament. So he spends his days, just playing. Like he just can't wait to find Jimmy at another tournament. Like he's probably on the hunt for Jimmy at this point. Like, I'm going to find this kid again. I'm going to beat him in another tournament. It was a fluke. There's no way he could have he beat me because it was a game nobody knew. Like, it was a brand new game. They were playing Mario Brothers 3. He's probably playing off the fact that, because this was my first time playing the game, he got me. I didn't get a chance to learn it like I should have. So I think you could have set up some sort of rematch between those two. That would have been cool to see. Because obviously I see Lucas as the type of kid that he was not going to let that go. All of his friends, including, if you look at the film, they do mention it. Well, not, you mentioned if you look in history, one of Lucas Barton's friends at Universal Studios is a very, very young Tobey Maguire. I don't think he says anything. He just stands there and smiles. But it looks like, from what I'm seeing, that was pretty much his first role in a movie. Wasn't credited in the film, but was his first role as a child actor. So, that's pretty interesting to see. You can totally tell he walks up and he has his Tobey Maguire smile. So yeah, that's all I got on this movie. Again, it's a classic. If you haven't seen it, or if you're a fan of Nintendo and you haven't seen this, do yourself a favor and go see this. It'll bring back so many memories of when we were all kids playing this game. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys all next week. I'm working on something a little big. I'm putting it together, probably be 2, maybe 3-parter. So we'll see. Thanks again, guys. See you next week.